When I want to introduce the currency, it was not easy. It was very difficult. On Line Blanc Highlands, especially Sir Toea was in opposition at that time. I know you all know Sir Toea, a very prominent and a very responsible person, and I don't blame him. He wanted to be a little bit slower because all too prepared. If we introduce our currency may not be able to buy goods from Australia and other countries. Oli pret, tapos yung may got money belum itu belayar. Why not buy rice? Why not buy tin four corner tin meat long Australian or not plus something in our clothes? So they were a very responsible opposition, and they want to take the matter slowly. But I was caught by the decision of the government to set the date for self-government in 1973 and then 75 independence. So I just had to move along. Now you must have it too. I had no education at all. I've never been to an economic school or a financial school to learn anything about accounting, etc., to set up the central bank. They are no easy thing to do. So I worked very closely with Sir Henry Torobert, Sir Henry Torobert. He was brought up with the Reserve Bank of Australia, so I worked very closely with him. I sent my staff to England, to Africa, to America, to Australia, to see if they can bring in the kind of legislation that will set up the Central Bank of Papua New Guinea. And then so I set up the Central Bank of Papua New Guinea, and I took over the Reserve Bank of Australia. Then we had a bank, the Bank of Papua New Guinea. That is the central bank. Then we can regulate and control all the other banks, like the Bank of New South Wales and in Westpac, Bank of New South Wales and the National Bank. So I set them a timetable. Once I had the central bank, the Bank of Papua New Guinea, I was then in a position to regulate. So I took away the license of the Commonwealth Bank of Australia, and then I introduced the Papua New Guinea Banking Corporation. All getting desplazado anyway. Very difficult time. I told you already that I had very little experience in that. The only experience I had was when I was a cooperative officer. I used to go to cooperative training center, and I learned a little bit about accounting and how to look after books. No, lig something to so on place. Huh? I never went into the central bank, the regulation, all these things. But looking back, in hindsight, it seemed that somehow we were lucky with being able to do everything right. In order to get the confidence of the people from the highlands, I used the currency, and I designed the currency. If you look at the currency now, but you're looking Mark Plong Million Bay Star, Mark Plong Altolai Star, Mark Plong New Island Missy Star, so it Toea Plong Papua Star Plong Million Bay. So I used the introduction of the currency to unite Papua New Guinea. And the word Kina, also you miss out Kina, long solvara blumitu blala. But the word kin is a Malpa language, meaning the store of wealth. Kina. So it seems to be falling into place, huh? Right? Kina. Now Toea is an arm shell they used in the Trobriand Island 120 years ago. Samplamani by Mary. I got some dog's teeth and all these, but also a Toea plus Buatao. Buatao is boy. So there was a historical thing. So Kina and Toea. And when you look at the currency notes, you will see yourself, your own province, or we didn't have province at that time, your place, the design of the artifacts and everything that resemble you, resemble your background. So in that way, I was able to unite Papua and New Guinea together. So the introduction of the currency was one of the most intensive exercise ever undertaken by any government from colonial to the time of self-government and independence. And I don't want to say too much about it, but I really worked my guts out. I worked my guts out to get us here. So the way to get the confidence of our people, I introduced the Kina and Toea on a dual currency period. The dual currency means I put Australian, because we were using the Australian dollar, and the Kina. I want to introduce it, but people are frightened. It may not be able to buy goods. So I put the parity, meaning the value of the Kina, equal to the Australian dollar, and they trade side by side. So that when you take the Kina to the store, you can buy one Kina good, $1 good. You know? And then all of a sudden, Papua New Guinea now felt confident. They were very confident in our currency. Hey, Kina belum itu lah, strong one from Australia, yeah. So as they put the Kina in, I took the Australian dollar out. I keep on removing the Australian out of circulation. Sampla Australian man, sampla Chinese too. They hide the Australian dollar underneath the baby bassinet. And only carry him go. We know, I know everything, but I let them go because it didn't mean I want to get the Australian dollar out of the system. 6 months later, I revalued the Kina, so by 5%. So the Australian we were at parity when I introduced it on a 1-to-1. 6 months later, I appreciated the Kina, and then all of a sudden, those people who took the money out felt they've lost a lot, because now the Kina is worth 5% above the Australian. So it was a very, very intensive period of working how we can get the financial setting of a country to be able to back up independence. Independence without the financial structure capable of sustaining itself is meaningless. It's not independent. So I'm pleased to tell you tonight that I've been very lucky. Probably the only person in the world that have ever set up the central bank, set up our own Papua New Guinea Banking Corporation, introduced the currency, and all the policy that have been revaluation, devaluation, closing the bank for 1 week in 1994, and floating the Kina. All these policies were made by me, and it's still relevant today, and it hasn't changed from that time on.